YouTube, John, JDS Outdoors, welcome back to the channel. And as you saw, we got the motor mount jig ready to go. And we got the welder protected, finally. I was a little worried about all these hoses here. It's power cord and gas line. And I was worried about them catching a spark or getting cut on the sharp edge of the boat. And I've been looking and looking and looking for a sleeve, something quality to put on it to protect it. And I finally found it. So just got her installed. Motor mount jig in the boat. Let's go ahead and start mocking up some motor mounts so we can go ahead and drop that beautiful thing inside the boat. So let's turn around and check it out. So if you revert back to, I believe it is episode 2 of the Jet Boat 3.0 series, that's where we made this jig. And if you haven't seen that video, I highly recommend watching it. So this will make a little bit more sense, but this is going to give us an idea on where the motor is going to sit and how high everything's got to sit. So I made these marks where the intake shaft needs to end, so to speak. So we got to line up that tape line there and then get the rest of this completely straight in the back or the side of the boat here. So we're going to go ahead and throw some jigs in here or some blocks to get our height so we can go ahead and take some measurements. Alright, motor mount jig is suspended in place. We got the end of that tape lined up perfectly with the end of the drive shaft tube, and it's actually a little low. I'd prefer to have it a little low because we can always shim it up, but it's hard to push it down. So a little low is better than too high. So we got to get this squared up measurements wise. Make sure the motor is straight, and then we can go ahead and measure up where our motor mounts are going to be. So all the holes are already drilled in this jig I made, so it should make this process really easy. I'm going to use some 2x3 angle aluminum, and then we're going to build up off of that. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so I got 2 stringers slash motor mounts welded in place just with some tacks. I tried measuring first, but it was too cattywampus to get something really accurate, so I set it back down a little bit. As you can see, it's sitting right on the bottom of that shaft. So it's sitting fairly level now. We can get some measurements off of this point here to gauge how much of a spacer we need to put in here. So the plan is I got some 1/2-inch aluminum, and I'm going to weld that 1/2-inch pad in here, and when we go to actually mount the motor, we're going to go ahead and drill and tap the holes so we can directly bolt the motor onto those motor mounts. And also we can put shims underneath there. So if you have 1/2-inch solid aluminum, that should be more than enough to drill and tap. Plus this is 1/8-inch 2x3 angle aluminum acting as a stringer, and then that 1/2-inch on top of it. So that should be more than enough to hold that little motor in place. So next step is we got to find out where these lines, or these holes I mean, are going to line up on here, so we can go ahead and make a cross support bar going across that point from there to over there, and get that installed so we can also add another 1/2 inch puck. And if you watched the second video where we were tearing this down and building this jig, you remember this motor mount here in the front of the motor is actually 3/16 of an inch lower than the back sides. So this is just getting stuff mocked up, not fully welding, nothing yet. So we can set the motor in here and see what she looks like with 1,550 cc's of raw Fortec Rotax power inside this little 10-foot boat. So let's go ahead and work on the front now. So here's something cool I just learned. When plasma cutting aluminum, 2 inches, or sorry, 1/2 inch thick, always start on the edge, because that stuff is thick. Alright, so all the motor mounts are in now. Before I show those in detail, I want to show you guys what came in the mail today. It's very exciting. Yeah. For those of you that don't know, this is the Stomp Grate, and the entire reason that I ordered that mini jet intake. So this piece right here bolts to the bottom of the intake, and this shoves in that slot that I showed previously. These two wings right here stick out the back of the boat, and they're hooked to this assembly of springs and rods, and the top of this is a nice bar that you can step on or stomp on, aka Stomp Grate. And what that does is, so this is going to be affixed to the boat and this is going to move. But for example, it lifts up, separates. So if you have debris, rocks, leaves, weeds, stuff like that stuck in your grate, you go in the back, you stomp on that, it pushes this bar down, therefore separating all of the debris, clearing your intake, and getting you back moving. So that right there is the main reason I ordered this whole kit. And it also looks good. So, I mean, that's always a plus. Anyways, back to the motor mounts. So, I'm going to tell you right now, if you ever plan on building a jet boat, whether it be from complete scratch, a Jet John, Frankenjet, whatever you're going to do, and it involves you manufacturing your own motor mounts, highly, highly, highly recommend making a jig. This made my life super easy. It's all lined up, and I guess the tale will be told once we set the engine in, which we're about to do. So, I'm going to show you up close what we're working with here on the motor mount. So, the back motor mount, see if I can get this close enough. So the back motor mount has a little bit of a airspace in between, and the side ones do as well. Obviously this plate isn't level, but our motor mounts are. So this moves a little bit, but that gives space to add shims. And like I said earlier, it's easy to go up but it's impossible to go down, so I wanted this to be a little low. Also being that the back part of the intake, or sorry, back part of the motor mount is 3/16 lower than the other two motor mounts, it's just going to make life a lot easier to shim up the front. So let's see how well this jig actually works. Let's grab the motor. I have the engine hoist in here, and let's set it in here and see what it looks like. Things are starting to get a little exciting, so let's do it. Well, there we have it, YouTube. The first look at the 155 horse inside the 10-foot boat. Went pretty good. The good old extension has never failed by duct tape. Don't try that at home, kids. It's looking pretty sweet. So now, let's do check a couple things out. So for one, we nailed every motor mount, so that's good. They will all bolt in. The next thing we got to look is we're going to look through the drive shaft hole, and we'll look in from the back of the boat here. Now what we're looking for when we do this is we want to see where the drive shaft goes into the motor, right there. We want to see that below or too low in the center of that drive shaft tube. That way we can shim it up to get it lined up perfectly. So let's take a look at the back of the boat here and see how it looks. I don't know if you can tell or not. Looks like it's coming through pretty good on video, but the drive shaft hole is below the center of the drive shaft tube in the intake. So that's exactly what we want to see, so we can shim that back part up and make this boat, or make this motor line up perfect. So that's going to about do it for today's episode of Jet Boat 3.0. The next episode, the plan is we obviously got to pull this motor out now that we know we got the motor mounts nailed good. We are going to make a few measurements off the front of the motor to see where we can put the firewall and all them goodies. And start putting, we got to cut the last couple bow plates here, the bow cap, start making the windshield. We're going to really start fabbing this boat up. It's almost ready for full welds. So make sure you stay tuned to see that. But this is just sweet. I've been waiting 2 years to do this. I hope you guys are enjoying it as well. So you guys know what to do. As always, thank you for watching JDS Outdoors, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.